What's going on, everybody? It's DJ Sketch and welcome back to the channel. I just want to talk to you guys real quick about the newest Ubisoft release, The Division 2. And this one, I can go ahead and tell you right off the rip, it's a vast improvement over the original Division. A lot of stuff that got changed for the better, but there are some things that did happen to stick around from the original one, and we'll get into a few of those in just a moment here. As I said before, this is definitely an improvement over the original. Also, enemies are not nearly as bullet spongy as they used to be, because also even going into the Division late into the development, also playing it maybe a year before the Division 2 was announced, also enemies took a lot of fucking bullets to drop. Also, you'd like 2, 3, you sometimes upwards of like 5 clips just for red bar enemies. Sometimes it was like, I know the early ones, yeah, that's gonna be a given. But even still, even like going upwards of like level 20, sometimes enemies took a lot of bullets to actually take down. This one, Division 2, not so much. Honestly, enemies are actually kind of scaled to where you're dropping people usually like in a clip or two. Not so much the purples and yellows, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But as far as actual enemy balancing, it's good. Honestly, I have no real complaints about that. Also, Washington DC itself, honestly, it looks incredible. They did a really good job with paying attention to detail, and monuments and also the very historic landmarks, those all look fantastic. Even the streets themselves, honestly, they're DC natives even say that, yeah, this is honestly fairly accurate to how things look. Granted, the post-apocalyptic setting, honestly, a lot of people say it's extremely accurate, and the parts I remember about this city, it's very accurate. So of course I totally agree. The combat in this one, compared to the original, everything feels better. Like the movement itself feels a lot more snappy. It feels like we actually like want to move between cover to cover. It feels a bit better than it did in the original. Even though parts of it, like, they do have like a little bit of jank, like some mechanics like still are kind of busted. The combat roll that you had in the original one seems like it didn't work nearly as well. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. But there were a few things that honestly felt a lot better, and some things that did feel slightly worse than the original, but even still there wasn't much that I really had to take a moment to pay attention to, aside from just trying to just get through the missions themselves. And everything for the most part is relatively well balanced, even between the harder difficulties. And there's a lot of grind to do in this game, especially with the end game, but again, we're going to get to that in just a minute, which I'll go ahead and, as far as another positive as well, like, this has a lot of replay value. Even with the early build, like before the raid drops. This one, honestly, I really didn't know what the whole deal was as far as builds until I got to the end game. And some of the builds you can do in this game are honestly insane. You can also be dishing out like 1 million to 2 million plus damage, like on some real like kind of wild shit, depending on some of these builds that you make. As far as like weapon drops and gear drops themselves, like after the end game, once you hit level 30, pretty much like you just disregard what the actual gear stats are, and all you want to worry about is just that gear score number. And once you get through that, honestly, it's strange. I honestly didn't think it was going to be quite like that, but honestly, the gear score number in a lot of instances really did mean more than actually the gear stats themselves, up until the point where you're kind of at the plateau as far as all the game level activities at the moment are at. But again, we're gonna get to that as well. Also, high tier loot. There was a lot of, actually a fairly decent amount of, I guess, exotic and rare materials as far as this game offered, especially compared to the first one. So honestly, I was actually kind of astounded by the amount of loot that was in this game, because also you're kind of just getting it left and right, especially once you get past like level 10. Honestly, it just seems like they're just dropping yellows and sometimes the orangish reds kind of often, which is interesting. Aside from the special tier loot, but also we'll get to that in just a minute. And also the thing that also to kind of keep people hooked onto this for a decent amount of time, I would think, is also just the fact that missions keep expanding. Once you get through the standard missions, you have everything else as far as the strongholds, the checkpoints, all the special question mark mystery missions. The strongholds themselves, like the strongholds are sick in this game. And but the grind does get kind of heavy once you actually finish the initial campaign. The Black Tusk will come through and pretty much take over several territories again. And to upgrade your world tier rating, you have to pretty much complete a couple missions and the strongholds again, along with Tidal Basin opening up depending on what level you're at. That's closer to the end. The strongholds, and even with the new one, Tidal Basin, compared to the original 3 shipped strongholds, Tunnel Basin's okay, but also the 3 that came with it before that got opened up just a week ago. Honestly, those were a little bit better in my opinion, but again, that's relative to... But even again, like what's on offer, you have like 4 strikes, which are actually decent. And for the most part, I really didn't have, as far as gameplay, a lot of bad things to say about it. Not too many, but I'm actually going to get to those right now. As you know, it's an Ubisoft game, so you know there's going to be glitches of some kind. Like them and Bethesda, they kind of go neck and neck as far as like how bad some of these glitches can be, but even so, they're usually not too bad. But in this case, with the Division 2, like, it is glitchy. I'm not going to lie to you. There's still a lot of visual glitches and also audio glitches that are still present from the beta build, which, like, some of them got patched to an extent, but not to the fullest, because you'll still see a lot of people with the T-pose, and also you'll see like a lot of this like weird graphical glitches as well. It's like, but the T-pose is one you're going to see fairly often. If you happen to kill someone on a ladder, that's an interesting and also hilarious glitch to watch. And also there'll even be a few times when I tried to get this on the capture, but enemies holding signs or enemies that you kill near signs, you might have some sign spinning kind of antics going on, and those are actually hilarious, especially if you can catch them, because honestly they'll go on for a good while, especially if you don't try to do anything to stop it. And the weapons, though they are plentiful, you are going to see a lot of the same weapons, like same name and make and models, but just with like different stats, which is I'm okay with. Honestly, they did better than Anthem in this regard. But at the same time, like as far as like going up through like the commons to the more rare than quote unquote exotic items, you're gonna see a lot of the same things, just with like boosted stats. You're not gonna get anything that's like usually lower than what you're running, but even still, you're gonna see a lot of the same weapons, but that kind of keeps up with the consistency. And if you get comfortable with something, it's like, oh, I wish I could get that weapon back with better stats. Chances are you probably will. And there's that. So you're gonna get a lot of duplicates, but even still, it's like it's dupes to the point where it's like not terribly annoying, so I wasn't really too put off by that. Also, this being an online only game, gonna run into some connectivity issues, but even still, these with the servers they're running at the moment, I really haven't ran into like too much stuff that was terrible. But there were a few times I was like at the tail end, like maybe like the last quarter of a mission, and the servers go down, and I have to, well, you usually can pick right up from where you leave off, so that part I appreciate. But even so, if the servers go down or your internet goes down, just chances are you might lose like a slight bit of progress, but I'm glad at least they planned ahead for that. And the main thing that I really thought was a bit of a downside is the PvP itself. Like, I'm stoked they have like team deathmatch and like team oriented activities to do aside from the Dark Zone and the map itself, but the balancing, holy fuck dude, the balancing is broken as shit in PvP. I mean, I know it's fun if you want to go through and demolish people, but at the same time, it's like, as I said before, the builds you can do, like some of the builds in this game are kind of insane. And you take those builds right over to PvP and you're just like crushing everything that's in front of you, which really nothing to stop you. So balancing in that regard, kind of a problem, but even still, like, I don't really play PvP, so that doesn't really bother me as much, but even still, I know that it's there. I have seen it firsthand. As I tried it, I was like, maybe it's not that bad. But then I went in there and tried it, and yeah, it's that bad. But even still, that doesn't really damper the impression I have on this game all that much, really, because that's something, it's there if you want it, but at the same time, you don't really need to fuck with it if you don't want to. So, overall, Division 2, especially if you're a fan of the Division 1, this is a solid buy. Honestly, you kind of know what you're getting into, especially if you played through the entirety of the original. You know what the deal is. You kind of know what to expect. It's a Tom Clancy game, so there's going to be some tactics to it, of course. And also, but it's one of those games you really don't have to be ultra tactical most of the time. At least not until the later missions, because then you will get smoked if you try to go in guns blazing. You will catch that smoke. That's for sure. But if you enjoyed these games, and also Ghost Recon, if those were of any interest to you and you played through those and enjoyed it, there's something, yeah, I totally recommend it. I mean, if you want to get it full price, you can, but I imagine it's already been out for a month, so it's already on some kind of discount by now, I'm sure. but also with the 8-man raid that's coming out, and also future content that's going to be coming to this game. It's going to be one to watch for sure, especially with everything else that's out around it. Like Anthem has no chance against this, but that much we already know. But this one, if you're a fan of the series, or if you're a fan of Tom Clancy games in general, is a solid one to pick up, so I recommend it. This kind of went on longer than I expected to, but yeah, either way, it's TJ Sketch, and I'll see you on the next one.